The rice is very hard.
Okay, guys, welcome to today's video. So we just came back from the tennis court with my friend here, and
I whoop his ass.
Oh, really? Really? Are you gonna bring that here?
What was the score?
What was the score? Today's video is about nursing in the US, and
5-2.
and you see, this is 9th month of me working in the US as a registered nurse. Right?
Nice.
I mean, this is May. And guys, it's been like, there has been some massive revelations and shockers here and there. I mean, everything is good, but there are some things I never anticipated that it was going to be this profound, okay? And now I'm beginning to get a first-hand experience of them. And I thought that it would be good to talk about them so that people who are like yet to move to the US or trying to get processed and start working in the US will have them in mind so that they'll be aware of it, okay? Like, you guys are going to know that these things you need to pay attention to them as you start working as a nurse here in the US. And as you're doing this, my hungry friend here, I'm making him Ghanaian fried rice because he has been in the US and he missed Ghanaian fried rice.
No, that's
and
point of correction.
Let me finish.
No, point of correction.
And having a chef like me, like a friend, I said, I mean, what are friends for? Let me just
No, you're going out of context.
Guys.
I haven't missed Ghanaian. I eat Ghana. I mean, fried rice.
Where do you get it?
Well, I mean, I go to Ghana.
No,
right?
Yeah, but that's when you go to Ghana. But
I mean, over here, I make some. I mean, fried rice.
Yeah,
in
but
the house
it's not a Ghanaian fried rice.
But you are the one that said you are an expert in fried rice.
In Ghanaian fried rice.
In Ghana, and you even took a course.
Yeah.
So I wanted to find out, you know, I mean, and see the outcome of the course. Like, I want to
help
taste
you.
No, I want to taste and see if it's really true you took that course and how good. I mean,
of course,
you've mastered the art of cooking fried rice.
Ghanaian fried rice.
Yeah. So I just want to take. I mean,
this guy likes Chinese fried rice, and I don't even understand how that is. Ghanaian fried rice is the best, though. Actually, not the jollof. I mean, the fried rice.
Technically, it's the best. It's good, but I mean, some Chinese fried rice too are the best.
Nah.
The one. I mean, I've taken you to. I mean, nicer Chinese fried rice. And, I mean, places, and you can testify.
Okay, so the rice is almost ready. Okay, I'll just fry it, and then everything is sorted.
No, let's wait and see.
Yeah, of course. What did he say?
They already know.
Okay, yeah, so very soon the food is going to be ready. Now, the first thing that I realized that I wish I knew before coming here was the importance of documentation. And guys, don't get me wrong, like, I've been a nurse for some time and I know that documentation is important. I mean, there is a funny word that is a funny phrase that the nurse has done everything, but the question is, did you document it? And it's almost like if it's not documented, it's not done. But I didn't know that it was such a big deal here in the US. Like, you can be home and you get like threads of emails and it's all about documentation. And apparently, like, someone said that when you are documenting, have in mind or document as if you are going to stand before a jury or a judge tomorrow. The baby is here, guys, bear with us, okay? So today one of the men is a nanny and the other is a cook. So and it's true, like, you are going to document as if you are going to stand before a judge because somehow you are going to be called to document or to defend the things you documented. And patients are very cautious, or they are very much aware of what they need to get from nurses as a care. And so they are always going to call you into question, and your documentation is the only thing that's going to save you. Like, I mean, it's a shocker to me, but I know that you have experienced it for some time, right?
Yeah, that is very true, because the most important thing when it comes to nursing in the US is assessment and documentation. You know, said already, if not documented, it means it's not done.
Yeah.
So the only evidence that can rescue you, you know, in case, you know, something happens, you know, or in case you get called into like any legal, you know, suit or something like that. I mean, the best thing that can save your ass or can save you is your documentation.
Okay.
And that is one thing that I mean, most nurses have been crying about. They feel like hospitals are not doing enough by, I mean, in a way of like protecting them when it comes to, you know, suits and stuff like that. Nursing is a different field where you have to be very responsible. Well, once you are at work, you are responsible for whatever actions, whatever happens, you know, on the field. Whatever patient you are assigned to, you are responsible for them. So the only thing that becomes your weapon or your evidence or something that you move with
is your documentation.
Your documentation.
You know, so a story happened here in one of the hospitals, and someone was telling me that, you know, a patient came to the hospital and that was the second admission within like 6 months. And on the first admission, the patient had a stage 2 pressure ulcer. And then the patient was discharged with the stage 2 pressure ulcer because the hospital was being stringent about wound care. They went to the nursing home and then they were readmitted back to the hospital, this time to the ICU. But when they came to the ICU, the wound had increased, had deteriorated to about a stage 4 pressure ulcer. Then the patient was discharged home after about 5 days. Then a month later, the family sued the hospital for being negligent in the care of the patient, and that the patient's wound was a small wound, and by the time they left the hospital, it was bad and it has gone to a stage 4. And the hospital started asking the nurse who was on duty. And this like 6 months ago. But fortunately, the nurse who documented on the first admission documented that the thing was, a stage 2 pressure ulcer, took photographs, had witnesses and all of that, like it's required. Like it's basic, like you need to have a witness and all of that. So the patient, the nurse did all of that, and that was brought up when investigations began. So the hospital realized that, oh, this nurse actually documented this, and this is what it says at the time, and it was witnessed by another nurse, and that's what saved the nurse. Otherwise, like, this nurse was going to be in trouble. Their family was bent on extracting some form of money from the hospital because the hospital has been negligent in the care, and the hospital was saying that this is the nurse's responsibility. And that's one of the problems that, like, the nurse would have found herself in if her documentation was not correct. So, like, I realized that documentation is, like, so important, and it's difficult to falsify documents here in this country because everything is electronic, and once it's in the system, even if you go and change it, it's going to document that it has been altered on a certain date, edited. So it's like documentation is a big deal. And if this video is about 20 minutes, guys, documentation, we can talk about it for like 15 minutes and talk about everything else for the rest of the 5 minutes because it is that important. It's like the singular skill that can differentiate you from being a competent nurse or not being a competent nurse. Like, there are some things I know and I'm good at. I do them and I go home, and sometimes they'll ask me, did you do this? And I'm like, this is something I can do in my sleep. It's so easy and simple. But the fact that you didn't document it means that you didn't do it.
Yeah. So it is really true because I had an instance in this lady is not gonna let us talk.
But
I don't know what she's actually trying to do, but yeah. So I was in California, and there was this patient that I received report from the ED nurse, and I knew this patient was coming from nursing home. The patient was an aged person, so I was like, okay, so this patient. After receiving reports, I specifically asked the nurse, is the patient's skin, okay? And the nurse was like, I know she cannot look me in the eye, but I think she spoke to me through the phone and telling me, oh, skin is, clean and intact, everything is good. And I was like, okay. And the patient had been in the ED for quite some time, so maybe some couple of hours, so at least they should be able to, have an overview, of the patient's, skin. And this nurse, just told me that. So when the patient came as usual, initial assessment, I got another nurse and we did assessment. And I found out that the patient had a big hole, on the back, a wound, and it was so bad. It was infected. I realized, looked through the chart, and I saw that the patient had an IND, and that wasn't also mentioned to me. In reports. So I got so pissed off, and I was like, so I have to call, the charge and people to let them know, hey, this is the situation you're dealing with. And the patient came in with a different issue, but over there, the patient had to, go to have another IND done because the wound was, so bad.
So it means that if
I hadn't done my assessment or checked the patient's skin again, or done a thorough assessment, I don't think I would also assume the patient's skin is intact.
And now it becomes your responsibility.
Yep, and if anything happens,
that's on you.
It's on me.
It's your pin on the line.
Right.
Oh my God.
It's really a big deal. It's a big deal when it comes to documentation and everything. Patients' vitals. It's not just skin assessment, even their vital signs. Because some doctors can come and go through your chart, and see, let's say, for instance, the patient might maybe pass away or go into a shock or something, and it is your responsibility as a nurse or something, as a nurse, to do what? To document, but make sure you file their vital signs so that the doctor, when they come around, they can be able to have an overview if the patient's, blood pressure is, staying or, it's not, it's kind of like, what's the word?
It's abnormal.
So at least it helps the doctor to be able to know you have like a great overview of the patient, vital signs or blood pressure or temperature and stuff like that. Because some patients specifically need like, to be on blood pressure medicine. But if you don't, record their vitals or you don't file them, how is the doctor going to be able to do what?
To know and make
to
that
know
decision.
and prescribe them on the correct blood pressure medicine. So all these things are part of the assessment in a person. It really makes it very important, because once you miss an assessment, it means you have like dropped some sort of like care, or like you've dropped,
you haven't given
like
the care
a
needed.
point, and you've delayed discharge, I would say. Yeah.
So guys, like, it's one of the things that I would talk about. Like, if you take anything from this video, make sure that your documentation is top notch. It's like not just like basic documentation, but make sure that everything you are doing, even when the patient moves out of bed into the chair, or you turn them in bed, or you give them water and
blanket.
You cover them, just document everything, my friend, like everything.
And they have all these things in the chart too, like
it's in the chart.
warm blanket, cold blanket.
The software is
everything
there, and
is there.
It's so
if you give them water and it's like 60 ml,
you need to document that. So that's one thing you need to learn.
And I would say this in regards to patients with cardiac issues, heart failure and stuff like that. Most of them are on fluid restriction and stuff like that. So let's say the patient is on like 1200 or 1200 fluid restriction, and you go on your shift for a whole 12 hours and you don't document. And the patient is on Lasix. They are trying to diurese or get rid of some fluid, and you're not documenting. Let's say like for the whole 12 hours, you only document that the patient just took in like 60 ml of water. Meanwhile, the patient had taken like more. How are we going to know the effectiveness of the Lasix or what we are dealing with? So it is very, very important. Sometimes it can be very lazy to do, because when you get to where you have a lot of things and a lot of stuff to do,
but I think that's the most important thing you have to do. Like document. Some people think the documentation is more important than the care, but of course I disagree. But like the point is that if you don't document, you haven't given the care, so you might as well document if you have done it, like whichever way possible. And so you can spend like 20 minutes, 30 minutes after the shift is over to go through your charts. And I saw people who are experienced nurses do that. When they finish shift, they spend about 20 minutes, 15 minutes, go over the charts, because if you go home, you want to have a peace of mind.
Let me give you a trick. My trick is I don't need to sit down after work and go through the chart for like 15-20 minutes or whatever and make sure. I even see a lot of nurses like after work, that's when they sit down and document everything. How are you gonna remember?
You need to do it right when you...
One thing about me is everything, once I enter the room, whatever I do in there, I document right away, because there's a computer right there. You don't have to go back and write something. You don't have to write. You can just document right over there. So unless the only thing that will take me out of the room is maybe there's an emergency, something going on. If not that, I will make sure I document everything. Assessment, everything, before I leave the room, before I move to a different patient, because you need to make sure it's one patient at a time, unless there's an emergency. Anything can wait.
That's a good point. This guy is really hungry and he can't wait for the Ghanaian fried rice to be ready. But don't worry, I'm going to sort you out. This is golden fried. This is golden fried Ghanaian chicken. And this guy's finished like 3 already.
Come on.
Okay.
Just one.
Okay, the next thing is that like you are not going to know everything as a nurse in the US when you come here initially, and that's okay, because for somebody like me, I had worked for so many years as a nurse, and there are some things that I feel like is basic to nursing, like medications, patient care, medical conditions, and all of that. But when I came here, I realized that there is so much difference between even just the culture of how patients perceive nursing here, the kind of care they believe they're supposed to receive, how you communicate with doctors, even patient communication themselves. And if you don't communicate with them well, they can send your manager an email, or they can send your supervisor a message, or they can call you out and let them know that this patient's communication, I don't like it or something. And it's not that you are being rude, you are just not being nice, or you are just not communicating the way they want. And it's one of the many things that you are supposed to take your time and learn. Like, you are not going to know everything when you start nursing here. So you have to like take your time and be willing to learn. That's one thing I noticed. And it's like most of us coming from other countries like Ghana, Nigeria, I know people have worked for so many years, and you move to the US. I think you just need to disabuse your mind of what you think you know and be willing to start from the beginning and learn as much as you can.
That is very true.
Yeah.
Because you can't just, walk from a different culture, a different, tradition, or a different, practice into a whole new practice and, just fit in.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of challenges that you face.
It's called a cultural shock.
Right.
And it's not to look down on any country, but the fact is that the health system in the US is much more advanced than a lot of countries. I mean, the closest comparison can be like, let's say, the UK. But even that, there's a big difference between healthcare in the US and healthcare in the UK. Because in the UK, because it's free, the patients don't have so much power to call things out. But here, because the patients are paying, they are so powerful.
Over here, the patients are the bosses.
And the hospital will prioritize the patient's concern over anything else because they want the patients to feel like they receive 5-star care. And so,
that's why they tell you to document, because when it comes at the end of the day, it's all about the patient, not you. Yeah, because they want to provide the best of customer care, to the patient.
So guys, please keep that in mind. Like, you don't know everything. You are not. I always say that I'm not the sole repository of wisdom, and so
I'm still learning.
Yeah, so you just have to have in mind that you need to learn, and things are different here because in Ghana or in the UK, you use a lot of generic names for drugs. This place, sometimes some people like to use a lot of trade names.
Trade names.
So they'll tell you Ativan or Benadryl, and you are used to them saying, let's say, ondansetron or lorazepam, and so you need to take your time to learn all these things and
brand names.
Have in mind that you are like a student, and it's going to help. But before we go to the third thing, the vegetables are ready, and I'll start frying the fried rice soon.
Is it soft? No.
I mean, the baby has stopped crying.
Yep, she's enjoying the conversation.
Yeah,
guys, we're having a divided attention here, so just forgive us. We're cooking and doing stuff at the same time.
The third thing that you wish to know, or I wish I knew before I started here, was that, there is something that I call the car payment trap. The US is so vast and big, so much so that for you to move from point A to point B, you need to drive. It's not like the UK where the train can take you in everywhere, or in Ghana where you can hire a cheap taxi or Trotsky and go to work. Okay, this place you must drive. And the average car payments, according to like Bureau of Labor Statistics or even Dave Ramsey, he says it's like $600 a month for car payments. And if you add your insurance, you are nearing $900. That's out of your salary. And some people think it's cheap money because they have the perception that the US pays nurses well. My friend, it's like, this is a big deal. It's a lot of money. $900 for a car payment is a lot. You might not know it, but when you start getting the deductions, you will understand it. And that's one thing I always say. Like, fortunately, I didn't fall into the trap because I met this gentleman who helped me, acquire a vehicle. And some people may not be able to get those privileges. I mean, if you are around me and you come here, he can help you for a small fee, and then you are out of that trap because it's a business it does. But the thing is that if you have the means, try and get a small vehicle so that you don't fall into the car payment trap. So that you can have the peace of mind to save and live a comfortable life, because in the initial stages you will be making a lot of money, guys, and the car payments can be a burden. I know people who are always having to look for shifts, risking their license, having to go around and work extra shifts and all of that, which is good, but what is the benefit of doing all these hours and just giving it to the car company, the dealership, which is taking your money?
And the thing is, one thing most people always like, when we were, growing up, born, we are taught that once you have education, you go to school, secure a job or get a better, paying job.
Yeah.
You're gonna be successful and you're gonna be, okay in life.
And
that was a lie. It's a big lie. All these things are true, but at the end, it's a lie when you don't act smart, with the money or the income that you receive.
Yeah.
Because you can never be successful or you can never be comfortable in life with the pay you receive as a nurse or as a doctor. You can go on and even become a doctor. At the end of the day, if you don't spend wisely, you are going to be broke at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Because I see most of the time when you work in the ED or like on the floor, ICU, whatever it is, you see like new doctors or doctors, going through the internet, and you know what they are doing?
Yeah.
Looking when Tesla came, that's when I saw a lot of doctors, jumping on that and trying
nurses.
to buy, nurses buying Teslas and stuff
Model
like
S
that.
and Model Y,
right.
Model 3.
And at the end of the day, how much are you getting paid?
Yeah.
You have a mortgage, you have a rent, you have your rent, you have this, you have that. I mean, this month, and put all these things together and know how much you're taking home at the end of the month.
It's not to cut you, but a friend of mine in another state, he actually makes about, he doesn't even make much, but he makes about $2,000 per paycheck. And his car payment for the month is about, because he bought a 2024 Toyota 4Runner, and he pays about $950 a month. So when he adds his insurance, that comes about $1,300 a month. And guys, this gentleman pays about $2,000 for rent. So the next thing I realized that I wish I knew was the higher the acuity that you work in, the more opportunities you seem to have here in the US. And that's something I realized that, there are so many jobs when you go on websites like Glassdoor or Indeed, and all they talk about is the kind of acuity, the level of acuity, and they want a certain level of acuity, a higher level of acuity. So if you can do or work in an ICU where you are giving like heparin drips, you are giving propofol drips, you are giving, those high level care, intubating patients and all those things, it looks like you have more opportunities, because from the ICU you can work in the PCU with the same skills, you can work in like other step down units, and you have so many opportunities. You can work in telemetry units with the skills you have. So it's a bit more prestigious, if I can use that word, for a nurse who has those skills than a regular nurse who has just med-surg skills. And once you come here, you realize that a lot of jobs and a lot of recruitment agencies or even hospitals are looking for ICU experienced nurses. They are going to also give you, like, once you have the ACLS certification, you have many more opportunities. And maybe if I had known, I would have tried to stay and get more experience so that I can get into a high acuity level once I come to the US. Yeah, that's one thing I realized.
It also depends. Because the higher acuity, it will depend, like, nurse to patient, ratio. You know what I mean? Like maybe when, let's say for instance, when you work in the ICU, most hospitals in the ICU, you have one nurse is to what? Two patients.
Okay.
Or maybe some places, and sometimes too in the ICU, there can be a time that you can have one nurse to one patient.
Okay.
Depending on the type of patient you're handling that minute. And some ICUs too, they can go up to a minimum of 3.
Okay.
One nurse to 3 patients.
You mean like a maximum of 3?
Yeah, a maximum of 3. Yeah. So, and a minimum of 2. Yeah, minimum of 2 and a maximum of 3. Yeah. So what they do is they will, let's say, give you like 2 patients on a ventilator.
Okay.
And the other patient will be like an easy patient, like maybe a patient that is ready to be transferred to maybe a med-surg floor, something like that. Yeah. Or like a less serious patient.
Yeah.
Yeah, making it 3. Or sometimes they can give you 1 patient on a vent and 2 maybe another trach patient, or it depends. Like they try to balance they try to balance it just so you don't have too much, or you're able to have time to at least attend to every patient, because the most important thing in the ICU is they always want to see nurses, and doctors, like nurses having their patient, like having time to be with their patient, because these patients are much more sicker.
Yeah.
So I think with the acuity level, and most nurses also tend to have more experience, with lesser acuity.
And even, there are some jobs, like I saw a flight nurse job, and they were asking for ICU experience before you can become a flight nurse. So for you to take patients on flights and
mostly sometimes they even require to have like ED, emergency experience, with flight nurses. Because you can't just have like ICU experience and not have an ED experience to be a flight nurse. You have to have an ED.
And then there was another job which was also looking for a cruise ship nurse. They're going to train you, but they required ED and ICU experience. So those emergency departments, ICU, high acuity levels, care, it gives you a lot of opportunities when you work in those areas.
Yeah, because they need to have a nurse that can catch up with the pace.
Yeah.
Because in those fields it's all emergency, and once they get on the field there has to be an access. You have to put an IV line in, and mostly, you know, when you work on a med-surg floor, a lot of nurses on the med-surg floor don't know how to put an IV line in. You know what I mean? Like they always fail on the first attempt or second attempt, and they have to call a start nurse or some nurse to come and, you know, experienced IV nurse to come and, you know, put
access the line
or put a line in for them. So, but when you work in the ICU, at least you get to put more lines in, and because true. You have so many medications running.
Yeah. I mean, I've been working here and I think I've done less than 10 IVs in the past 10 months.
Right.
I mean, but in the UK or in Ghana, like IVs is something you do every day.
Every day.
But this place, once they have a little difficulty, they don't ask on the ward who is going to do it. They just call the start nurse. So on the med-surg floor, I mean, that's one of the things that happens.
Yeah, and it's good too because on the med-surg floor, they are very busy on the med-surg floor. So sometimes a nurse can have 6 patients, and how is the nurse gonna have time to even go spend time in this patient room and put an IV in?
Yeah,
there has to be someone on standby to actually, you know, help when they maybe sometimes they need that time to insert IV, but they might not have that time, so they will try and they will fail, and they have to call someone to come and do that.
Okay, so the next thing I realized is that, you know, working in the US, if you are nice and you are respectful to patients and your colleagues, it solves about 80% of your problems here in the US. Because I realized that when I came, one of the things that I did was like, I was very friendly and I was treating everybody with respect and I wasn't acting like I knew everything. And people did show me some respect, but I was also very observant and very respectful of their opinions, and I was asking questions and I was going out of my way to be very polite. And I realized that it made people become very accommodative of me, and they were open to show me a lot of things, and they were less critical of me. And it's one thing I realized that, you know, one nurse who was on the unit came from a certain hospital. I mean, she's a travel nurse. She came and she appeared like she knew what she was doing, and she wasn't really friendly and all of that. And it was one complaint after the other. But for people who come and they are nice and they are friendly and they are polite, people treat you with kindness and they go out of their way to like be nice to you. And that's one thing I realized, like, guys, just find a way to be nice. Even if you are going to fake it or whatever, just be nice and be polite. It's going to go like a long way.
At some point, maybe I would say sometimes you can't fault, you know, some people because they are individual differences when it comes to the field. But one thing about nursing is that everything has to be teamwork. And it doesn't matter. That's one thing. Sometimes when you talk to travel nurses, one of the challenges they face in some hospitals, because we all know travel nurses have like the most experience because they work in different hospitals, and I mean they get to deal with like, you know, a lot of, you know, challenging patients because I mean obviously like every time there's a travel nurse on the floor, the nurse will that travel nurse, you know, will get a difficult patient on the floor, you know, which is no doubt. So it kind of, you know, challenges them because of this, you know, thing. Every time they go to a different facility, they try also to stay out of trouble by trying to do things, you know, their way, which isn't the best if you know you are not really following, you know, the the policies of the hospital. I will commend, you know, nurses in the US. One thing I've seen about nurses in the US is the type of people that are not complacent. You know, when you go to, let's say like in Africa, Ghana, stuff, places that we have, you know, experienced. One person is very much like, you know, they feel too low to even go to someone to even ask for help or something like that. Or like maybe when they are working with someone and the person try to, you know, teach them or, you know, correct them.
Too proud to ask.
And also they feel like when someone is trying to correct them, they feel like this person is being too, you know, bossy over me and stuff like that, and they take it, you know, in a bad way. But I mean, but maybe the person doesn't mean it, you know, that way. So we kind of tend, and that's why when you look at our, you know, countries, we don't like to copy other nations, and we want to do our own thing. But over here, one thing that I've seen is when you work with nurses over here, you go on the floor and you communicate with them, you get closer to them, you ask them questions, try to get to know the floor that you're on, because once you get on the floor, the nurses become very, you know, skeptical about you, and they be like, they see you as a stranger, and they don't trust you. that's how it is over here. Mostly on the US hospitals like floors.
Yeah.
Once you are a new person there, they don't trust you until you do what?
You have proven yourself.
Yeah, you get closer to them. You try to prove something to them to let them understand, know that this person is a good person.
And it makes sense. I mean, you move to someone's country, you have to like go through the routes or go through the routines and the same pathway and learn whatever is happening, so that you become confident and conversant with their ways. And that brings me to the next point, which is that when you're working as a nurse in the US, you need to try and always do what is right, guys, because it's almost as if there is a second eye watching what you are doing. You might not even know, but like, I mean, I was reading a story on a Reddit forum for nurses, and this nurse whose license is being investigated said that he went to a travel assignment somewhere, and that was a year ago, and then he gets an email from the agency that the hospital said he worked with the patient, he took the medication out but didn't give it. He also came back and said he gave the medication, but he did an override because the scanner wasn't working, and the patient said he doesn't remember having the medication. That was about a year ago, and they had to investigate, and they realized that this nurse actually gave the patient tap water instead of giving the medication. He just took tap water and gave it as a patient, like as a placebo, and he probably abused the medication. And I was reading it on Reddit, and this happened a year ago. The case was found out. The nurse has been summoned, and the hospitals have been sued by the family, and the hospital had to call in this nurse who went there years ago. Okay, and now the case is in court. So like, this thing has been found out, and it's like very shocking.
Yeah.
So like, that's one I realized. Don't think you are going to hide it. And somebody said, so whether it's true or not, but like, you need to keep in your head that you try and do what is right all the time, because someone somewhere is watching.
Sometimes you talk to your fellow travel nurses, and they're like, oh, what do you like about being a traveler? They're like, oh man, I like the independency, you know, once I'm done with this hospital, I'm done with this contract, you know, and I'm gone, that's it.
Yeah.
And that's not it.
Yeah.
That's never it. Once you are there for that period, you have to really do what you're supposed to do everything right. As you said, you have to make right over there before you can, you know, be peaceful, because like this case, for instance, years back, now they traced it, came back, and now they're suing, because, you know, it's sometimes when some people go broke too, they find ways and means to also make money.
To make money from the hospital.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So just one little thing, you might think you are deceiving the patient, or the patient doesn't know, or the patient is not looking. Sometimes, you know, you have patients using their phone to record. You know what I mean?
Patient record
stuff
all the
like
time.
That.
Patients use their phone. Some of them even use teddy bears, put cameras in the teddy bears, and they are recording everything you are doing.
Yeah, and those people, when they come, you need to be very careful of them, because they are there on a mission. You know? Because they really want to find faults to sue you and, you know, make money out of it, because they need that money.
Yeah, and the hospital is going to shift it to you.
Right. When it gets to that level, then it becomes business. It becomes business for the hospital, and also for the patient, and also you, the nurse. So now the hospital don't have to deal with that. They have to shift the blame to you, because they have to go back in, first of all, because hospitals have their lawyers. Their lawyers, they will go in. Their legal team will do what? Go over all your chart and documentation and your encounter with the patient. And sometimes even in hospitals in the US, there's this, you know, little, you know, badge that we put on every time you enter the room. It kind of it also records. It does. It records the number of times you've been in the patient room, so they can get all these things from IT. You know, I mean, these people, and see if it was really true. You did what? You were there, or how many times you even went there. Because let's say you're supposed to give a medication at 8 o'clock, or between 8 and 10, or 8 and 9, and you said, "Oh, I did it." Meanwhile, you didn't do it. So they can be like, "Okay, you have this. Okay, let's go and check." There's so many ways. I mean, in finding out. You know what I mean? So you have to always try and make right when you're working with patients in the US.
Guys, that's one very important point. Like, just do what is right and have your peace of mind, because you can't really cover your track. I don't know what else to say, but that's it. Okay, the other thing, or the last point, is that I realized that you are likely to get stuck at one point in your career here in the US. But one thing I realized is that, you know, you are likely to get stuck at one point in your career, because there are so many opportunities that you are going to be presented with working on the unit. There will be chances for you to go to do courses, improve yourself, do short courses and all of that. And so you are likely to forget the need to like improve yourself. And then by the time you realize, you are spending 10 years, 15 years, 20 years on one unit. And I'm not saying it's bad, but the likelihood is that you are going to become complacent, and you are going to store your progress. Meanwhile, you could have improved yourself to become, like, let's say, a manager or a chief nursing officer, or you can go back to school and become anything you want to be.
The fact is, you can be at bedside for the rest of your entire career.
Yeah.
It's very stressful, especially with the male, nurses.
Yeah.
It's very stressful for us to be at bedside. Even right now, when you ask like 10 male nurses, I would say like 8 or 7 out of these 10 or 9 out of 10 will tell you they want to retire.
Oh, I read the article on LinkedIn, and it was even from AMN.
Yeah, male nurses will tell you, at this, I want to retire. Like, I just want to retire out of nursing. You know what I mean? Yeah. So once you're on the floor and there's an opportunity that pops up, just take it, do it. As long as you know you're gonna be there for a very long time, and that's what you're gonna do, and you are okay, because not everyone can be a millionaire. If we are all millionaires, I don't think no one is gonna be a housekeeper. So and that's how the world works. So the people that cannot, if you think this is what you can do, you try to do what? Improve in the field that you are, at least in the next 10 years. You're not just a regular RN on the floor, but you are a charge nurse on the floor, or maybe you are a nurse manager or something, supervisor or something like that on the floor. So it is something that you should also, try doing as a nurse, in order to, give you that peace and relieve your feet
from the walking. Walking. That's very important, guys. So it's something like you would take care of. Like, have a plan somehow, right? So that you know that you are not just getting started, because you can become comfortable and it affects you, it stifles your earning potential and all of that. Yeah, and before we speak about the last point, please subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, and hit the notification bell as well. And that brings me to the last topic for this video, which is
assess to assess the fried rice. Do you want me to assess the fried rice? Do you want to?
I mean, it's good.
At least you should ask me.
I can do
what I think about.
I'm not going to ask you, because I know you have enjoyed it.
The rice is very hard. The rice is really hard, but it's okay. On average, I would say on a scale of 1 to 10. Why are you looking at me like that? On a scale of 1 to 10. Hey, on a scale of 1 to 10.
The baby's watching you.
We'll give him a 5.
Oh, this guy's not serious.
I wanted to give you 2.
Okay, so guys, this is a very important thing, and I hope that you have gotten some useful bits of information from this video. Like, it's all supposed to get you informed, just so you know what is going to happen or what is out there for you as you plan to move here to the US. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.
Peace.